All right, so hey guys, on the next page, or at least on the next the entry of your module, you should see Emily Dickinson Nearpod. And what it is me experimenting with Nearpod. And there is a short video that I want everybody to look at. I'm going to show it here during the Zoom time. And so you'll probably hear a doorbell with someone entering the class, but that's fine. But I'm going to share a screen real quick. And there we go. And click on Emily Dickinson Nearpod, kind of show you what you need to do. I'm going to talk a little bit about Emily Dickinson later. I'm trying to be elusive because I know you did the web quest and or at least look through some of the poems, and I expected there to be some difficulty. And but we'll learn about Emily Dickinson, and then we'll talk about it here. But go ahead and click on the sharenearpod.com, and you'll see this come up. I'm liking that things seem to be going a little bit faster, knock wood, today. All right, at least I thought it was. So anyway, Emily, this guy here in Nearpod does a pretty good video. There is questions embedded in this video. And I need to take off the thing here. So with these questions, you'll end up logging in with your, I'm sorry, I did the Google thing, didn't I? You want to, oh, that's right, log in with your Google account, just like I'm doing here, and it should take you to the video. Now there will be questions that you'll need to answer during the video, and there's nothing to write down. I'm not taking it up. This is an honor system. Just answer the best that you can, and we'll go through it. So for you guys, you can kind of mute. And when I'll hit play, and I'll just say ready, set, play, and then we should be able to hear it. Okay, so we're going to try that. That's part of the experiment. You guys ready? 1, 2, 3, play.
This is Crash Course Literature, and today we're going to talk about this lady, Emily Dickinson. By the way, we don't have a book today because she's on my Nook. Emily Dickinson was a great 19th century American poet. Mr. Green, I already know everything about her. She was a recluse, and you can sing all of her poems to the tune of I'd Like to Buy the World a Coke, like, because I could not stop for death, he kindly stopped for me. Stop me from the past. You cannot sing. Fortunately, your inability to sing does insulate us from copyright claims, because I, for one, did not recognize that as If I Could Buy the World a Coke. Also, Dickinson's meter is more complicated than you're making it out to be, but yes, you could sing most of her poems to If I Could Buy the World a Coke. Also, Yellow Rose of Texas. More importantly, these poems have a lot to say about the relationship between death and life, between faith and doubt, between the power of God and the power of individuals. So let's focus on that, because it actually might change your life and stuff.
Okay. Oh yeah, so you can type your answer in there. I didn't know that. All right. So how much do you already know about Emily Dickinson's poetry? So this is open-ended, and I know that some of you are going to say not much. All right. So I get that. So, but whenever you're ready, just do that, and I will go on with the video. I know quite a bit. I'm going to share that later. I'm just going to put we'll share later. Share later. All right. So, and I'm going to submit. Got it. Continue playing. 1, 2, 3.
Stuff. So Joyce Carol Oates once called Emily Dickinson the most paradoxical of poets, the very poet of paradox. And this can really frustrate students and literary critics alike, particularly when Dickinson seems to contradict herself within a single poem. Take, for example, this bit of light verse. Faith is a fine invention when gentlemen can see, but microscopes are prudent in an emergency. So this seems like a pretty pro-science, anti-religion poem, right? I mean, faith is put in quotation marks and called an invention. But she also implies the possibility of a different and valuable kind of sight only available to some people at some times, when gentlemen can see. And this is...
All right, so why has Dickinson been called the most paradoxical of poets? So read through each of those questions. She was not educated. She couldn't write. She sometimes wrote down her poems. She often contradicted herself. So if you read already, You might, and of course, if you also heard him, because he's speaking very fast, the answer is I'm assuming D, right? She often contradicted herself, even within the same poem. 1, 2, 3. Uh-oh.
And this is where it becomes important to look at how Dickinson, for lack of a better phrase, sees sight. Dickinson often imagines seeing as a form of power, so much so that seeing, not just literal sight, but also the ability to witness and observe and understand, becomes the central expression of the self. Like her famous poem that begins, "I heard a fly buzz when I died," ends with the line, "I could not see to see," associating the lack of sight with death itself. Dickinson also often played with the fact that this eye and this eye sound the same. Her poem beginning "Before I got my eye put out" is about death, for instance, not just monocularization. In that poem, she clearly associates sight not just with the power to observe, but with ownership. She writes, "But were it told to me today that I might have the sky for mine, I tell you that my heart would split for size of me. The meadows, mine. The mountains, mine." Of course, in 19th century America, the idea that an eye, possibly a female eye, could own the mountains, the meadows, and the sky was a little bit radical. I mean, all that stuff was supposed to be under the control of God, not any human being who could see it. All of this is made even more complex and interesting by the fact that Dickinson's poems sounded like hymns, and throughout her life, you could see her faith waxing and waning in her poetry.
Oh, here we go again. So, in her poetry, Dickinson often linked eyesight with what? Smell and touch, self-expression, nature, love. So again, I know he's speaking very fast, but what do you think? Smell and touch, self-expression, nature, love. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you the answer is self-expression. So eyesight is with self-expression.
Poetry. In short, I don't think you can make easy conclusions about microscopes and faith in Dickinson's poetry, but that's precisely what's so important about it. Dickinson's work reflects a conflicted American worldview. I mean, we're a nation of exceptional individuals who believe that we control our success and our happiness, but we are also more likely to profess a belief in an omnipotent God than people in any other industrialized nation. All right, I know you guys want all the creepy, macabre details of Dickinson's biography, so let's go to the thought bubble. So Emily Dickinson was born in 1830 to a prominent family. Her father became a U.S. congressman and lived her whole life in Massachusetts. She was haunted by what she called the menace of death throughout her life, although then again, who isn't? Between 1858 and 1865, Dickinson wrote nearly 800 poems, but she also became increasingly confined to her home in those years, and eventually rarely left her room. She usually talked to visitors from the other side of a closed door, and didn't even leave her room when her father's funeral took place downstairs. Dickinson published fewer than a dozen poems in her lifetime. In fact, no one knew that she'd been nearly so prolific until her sister discovered more than 1,800 poems after Emily's death in 1886. Dickinson was considered an eccentric in Amherst and known locally for only wearing white when she was spotted outside the home. In fact, her only surviving article of clothing is a white cotton dress. This image of a pale wraith clad all in white has become a symbol of the reclusive, brilliant poet. But it's worth noting that for Dickinson, white was not the color of innocence or purity or ghosts. It was the color of passion and intensity. Dare you see a...
All right, so here we go again. This is an open-ended question again. This is kind of like giving some of your answers. Why do you, it's not really open-ended, but why do you think the color of white is often associated with innocence and purity? Include examples from history or culture to explain your answer. So just couple of seconds on that, a minute or two. Some people have said that white is such a clean color, there's no blemish on it, and that kind of shows that innocence or whatever. So, and I guess too, if you throw up that white flag, surrender, I don't know if that's a real thing with purity and innocence, but hey, it's also a give up thing. I just think white doesn't necessarily always have to be innocence and purity. Just saying, it is a sign of surrender. So, we use examples. The most common example is our brides when we have a wedding. What color does a bride normally wear? She wears white. All right. So, just wanted to go on with that. And let's see. I'm going to submit and get ready to go. Possibly. Oh, look, I got to answer the question. So, White Wedding. I'm going to put White Wedding by Billy Idol, so just as a title there. Just as a joke, it's not a joke. Fill in, answer as best you can. So, continue playing in 1, 2, 3.
Dare you see a soul at the white heat, then crouch within the door, she once wrote. She called red, the color most associated with passion, fire's common tint. For Dickinson, the real, true, rich life of a soul, even if it was physically sheltered, burned white hot. Thanks, Thought Bubble. Oh, it's time for the open letter? An open letter to the color white. But first, let's see what's in the secret compartment today. Oh, it's a Dalek. Stand more flagrant pandering to the Whovians. Dear White, you're complicated and symbolic. Dalek! Not very bright. So White, you're often associated with purity, like wedding dresses. You can symbolize heaven or the creepy infinite nowhere where certain parts of Harry Potter and all of Crash Course Humanities take place. But many 19th century writers inverted those associations, like Melville's famous Great White Wall of Whale, the terrifying blankness of nature. And to Dickinson, White, you were the color of passion and intensity. This reminds us that our symbolic relationships aren't fixed. We're creating them as we go communally. I mean, other than Daleks, which are universally terrifying no matter what color they come in. Best wishes, John Green. Okay, let's take a close look at a poem we've already mentioned, sometimes called Poem 465 and sometimes known by its first line, I heard a fly buzz when I died. Speaking of which, here in the studio we've had a genuine plague of flies in the last few weeks. I mean, in the lights up there are thousands of fly carcasses. Okay, let's put aside the fly carcasses and read a poem together about flies. I heard a fly buzz when I died. The stillness in the room was like the stillness in the air between the heaves of storm. The eyes around had wrung them dry, and breaths were gathering firm for the last onset, when the king be witnessed in the room. I willed my keepsakes, signed away what portions of me be assignable, and then it was, there interposed a fly. With blue, uncertain, stumbling buzz between the light and me, and then the windows failed, and then I could not see to see. Okay, first let's talk about the dashes. Some critics think that Dickinson's use of dashes as punctuation is just eccentric handwriting or else an accident. I mean, they point out that Dickinson also used similar dashes, for instance, in her cake recipes. Others argue that the use of dashes are a typographical attempt to symbolize the way the mind works, or that the dash is used as punctuation stronger than a comma but weaker than a period.
All right, so what do you think the dashes mean? So, and then why? So that's I know we haven't gotten into a lot of it, but dashes do mean something when you're reading poetry. What do you think they might mean? And while you're typing your answers, I have several possibilities, and of course he offered several possibilities too. Sometimes when poets write, that there's a pause, at least where they're trying to phrase what they're meaning to phrase, and maybe that's part of it too, because all this was done freehand. Another thing is maybe there is a pause. Maybe it's to slow the reader down. I want to emphasize this part, so I'm going to put a hyphen or something or a dash right here. So it's not necessarily a hyphen. Hyphen's going to join things. This is a dash. So then someone once offered and said, that dash between the date that you were born and the date that you die, that dash is the most important part. So what does that might say about the poem? So that's kind of inflecting what's not being said. So don't necessarily think that's true for that part, but she writes specifically. So I think the dash is meant to pause, to take that breath, to ponder. So it's a thinking type dash. All right, so I'm just going to put dash there and submit. All right, and ready to go? And continue playing.
Regardless, though, the appearance of a dash at the end of this poem, at the moment of death, is a very interesting choice. So in this poem, the speaker is dying, or I guess has died, in a still room surrounded by loved ones. A will is signed, and then the fly, with blue, uncertain, stumbling buzz, comes between the light and the speaker. This makes it so the narrator cannot see to see, and by now you know what happens in Dickinson poems when people can't see, they're dead. So Dickinson was just a smidge obsessed with death, which means that she got to imagine death in a lot of different ways, as a suitor, as a gentle guide, but here, death is a buzzing fly. So everyone in the room is awaiting the arrival of the king, which before Elvis took over the title in 1958 was a reference to God. But instead of the quiet, peaceful arrival of God they're expecting, it's a dirty little fly with uncertain, stumbling buzz that gets between the narrator and the light. So this poem features Dickinson at her most formal. The lines are very iambic. I heard a fly buzz when I died, the stillness in the room. And they alternate between tetrameter, 4 feet, and triameter, 3 feet. The rhyme scheme throughout the poem is A, B, C, B, which means the first line ends with one sound, the second line with yet another, the third line with another still, and then the fourth line rhymes with the second line.
Okay, so that was very important, making sure that they're rhymed. I will tell you that Emily Dickinson, when she was writing, she didn't necessarily write for a particular style. She wanted kind of her individual thing, but she was, again, very precise. So having the rhymes A, B, were very important to her. Now, that did not happen for all her poems, but for this particular one, it did. So, multiple choice question, which of the following is an example of an ABCB rhyme scheme? So if you read through that already, hopefully you have while I was doing this little chat, you recognize something from Shakespeare. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the daring buds of May, and summer lease hath all too short a date. So that is the example there of the AB or ABCB rhyme scheme. I said ABAB, but I meant ABCB. So I was thinking ABAB. Make sure I was doing this right. Yep, okay. So I have to go back. Continue.
The second line. But Dickinson employs her famous slant rhymes here. Like in the first stanza, room is matched with storm. In the second, be with fly. These words sort of almost rhyme, like room and storm both end in sounds, be and fly both end in hard vowel sounds, but they don't rhyme. And this discomforting lack of closure is a hallmark of Dickinson's poetry, also of most of my romantic relationships. Only in the final stanza, when death comes, do we get a full rhyme. Me, the I, is rhymed with see, the thing the eye can no longer do. So is this a peaceful death? Hardly. I mean, the stillness in the room is broken by the buzzing fly. And yet, with that final full rhyme, Dickinson offers us a bit of peace and closure that we didn't get in the first two stanzas. To return to an old theme, even though we live in an image-drenched culture, this is a good reminder that language is made out of words. And it might sound like overreading to you to say that a full rhyme brings peace, but I'm reminded of the story of Mozart's children playing a series of unfinished scales in order to taunt their father, who would eventually have to go to the piano and finish them. Poetry isn't just a series of images. It's rhythmic and it's metric, and we crave the closure of a good rhyme at the end of a poem. That's why sonnets end with couplets. Dickinson gives us that closure. And then she gives us a Jose Saramagoing dash, the poet of paradox, still haunting us.
Okay, so that pretty much it. And I'm going to go back. We have a couple minutes on the video, but let me see if I can go back. Please let me go back. Yeah, all right. So back to that question, ABCB rhyme scheme. It should have been answer C, which says, whose woods these I think I know. His house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. So that was that rhyme scheme there. So
Dickinson employs her famous slant rhymes here, like in the first stanza.
So there. Whose woods I think I know, and did that right? An ancient mariner, and he stoppeth one of three by the gray beard and glittering eye. Now wherefore stoppeth me? Mariner 3, A, B, C, B. Very good. All right, so it is a ABCB rhyme, and we're going to skip back to the Make sure that you're answering. What are you confused or curious about? I know that you said that because I could not stop for death. What was the actual confusion? What were you concerned about?
Just like that theme, if it was about just the stages of like that lead to death or the afterlife.
Okay, the theme and stuff. And so look, when we look at because I could not stop for death, we're going to look at personification, and because that's a huge, it's a huge concept in there. Death is capitalized. The word death is capitalized. We see death as a person picking someone up, carrying this person to the grave. So, and we'll talk about that, and make it a little bit less confusing. All right. So, last part of the video. Oh, wait a minute. I got to do this right. Last part.
Still haunting us. Thanks for watching our Crash Course Literature mini-series. Next week, we begin a year of learning about U.S. history together. Now begins the complaining by non-Americans that we're shallow and self-interested and call ourselves Americans, even though, in fact, this is America. My friends, even if you don't live here, the history of the United States matters to you because we're always meddling in your affairs. Thanks for watching. See you next week. Crash Course is produced and directed by Stan Muller. Our script provided.
Okay, so, yeah, put that down. Let me see if Andrew showed up. Not yet. All right, let me save this.